Well, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate the opportunity to present in front of you guys. My name is Destin Daigle. I'm the director of MLS at Rapattoni.
And I'm Madeline Talbot at Leighton. I'm the product manager for MLS.
So I know you guys are looking at different vendors, and we really appreciate the ability to come out and kind of show what we have. You've been a customer of ours for 10 years now for both your MLS and your Magic software, which is the one that runs your billing behind the scenes. And I know that sometimes you just think, I already know the system, I don't need to come and see a presentation. So we really appreciate your coming and giving us the opportunity to present. Yeah,
Get behind the mic.
Yeah, I'll get behind the mic. Is that better? Yeah. All right. So we just appreciate the opportunity to come and present. So what we're going to do today is go through a demo of the MLS. We won't go through a full demo and bore you with this is where the home page is, but we will talk about some of the bigger features, some of the new things, features that are sometimes missed. If you've been with the system for a long time, you may not know certain things exist, so we're going to go over those. And then we'll demo the mobile product as well, and talk about where we're going in the future and some of the things we're doing coming up, and then open it up for any questions you have. So please feel free to ask questions a little bit as we go if it's on topic with what we're talking about. Anything else we'll grab at the end. Maddie, did you want to?
No, I think we'll get started.
Okay.
Rapattoni has been in business for 45 years.
Yeah, you're going to need the mic too.
All right. Just a little bit of background about the company. We've actually been in business for 45 years. We're a family-owned and still run company. Andy and Nikki Rapattoni started the business 45 years ago, and Nikki is still the CEO. I've personally been with Rapattoni 28 years, and Destin's been there 15. All of our leadership team are at least 15 years with the company. So that's just a little bit of background. We're going to start off with the demo, and as Destin said, we're going to cover some features that you have and you probably had for a while, but we know there are certain features that are underutilized, so hopefully you'll learn a little bit of something today. So I'm going to switch it over to Destin, and we'll get started.
I'm just going to jump right into live demo then. So this is your MLS. You should be used to using it. I'm going to go over mainly just, besides going over just features you have, I'm going to talk about some things that you could be using that maybe you're not. So one thing I wanted to point out is I noticed you guys have single sign-on. You have one single sign-on link to RPR. We actually work with a large number of different third-party vendors that have different integration points that go all over the place, both for CMAs, for statistics, for all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to touch a couple of those just on another site so I can kind of show you some things that can be integrated. I'm going to use Berries because they used quite a few different single sign-ons to partners around them for data share, as well as different tools that they use. So you notice right off the bat, they have a couple links going to San Francisco, Sacramento, Paragon's one of the links. They have a 8 MLS regional that they work in, and they share data between all of the different boards. And they also share to a combined database called Quattro. Even though there's 8, it's called Quattro. And all that data goes in there, and we house the data. So we facilitate the data share for all of them. We have single sign-on going into not just our own MLSs, but to other MLSs. And then we house this Quattro database, which is just everything in one database for everybody to go search it. So I just want to kind of talk about the things that are possible there. Other places SSO and single sign-on and integration exists is from a listing detail screen. So if I go to a listing detail in Berries, there's all these links at the bottom of different places that they can go. So they use Supra, so there's integration into Supra, so they can go set up their keys. They use Cloud CMA, so they have a different CMA option. I'll show you they have a couple different CMA options. They post to Facebook, Realist. They have community reports that go into Find. So this is a good example of ways we integrate with other free services that take you into detailed statistics and reporting. So this is actually going into Find, which is Realtor.com's Realtor version. And it goes into not just the listing, but it goes deeper into the listing to a specific report. So it does take a second to open up. So this is a Find report that goes into a community report for the area. And these are available to everybody. So if you have a deal with Find, we can turn on these kind of links as well.
I think, Justin, one example that I'm working on with you guys right now is Form Simplicity, which is our Florida Realtors Forms program.
Okay, so it looks like we're working with Forms Simplicity to add deeper integration to that product with you.
Yes.
Other places you can get into it are, actually, let's just go back one and talk about CMAs. These guys work with 2 other CMA providers other than just Rapattoni. So you notice when I go to a CMA here, I have our normal CMA package, but I can also go to Cloud CMA and Toolkit CMA. So we can work with any of these third parties and integrate the data. That way you have some different options for sending out CMAs. And another place you can do deep integration like that, I know these guys had Supra, so if I go to a listing detail as a listing owner, we can do deep integration from the listing page as well. So they have integration to the lockbox vendor. They also have integration to a data checker called Checkit, which does all their data checking for them. So some things you're not using today, but I just want to go out there, the options that you have. A lot of times you'll see different vendors and they'll show you things and you'll go, oh, why don't we have that? I want you to know you can. There's all kinds of stuff. All the vendors are pretty much the same on features and different things we can do. It's constantly a race to see who can get the newest feature, then somebody else will add it and we'll add it and vice versa. It's been going on for 10 years since I've been doing it in the MLS that we've had. So that'll continue to happen. Everybody will be adding features and moving around. So I just want you to know all that stuff is there and available.
Whose responsibility is it to put that feature out there to us so that we can decide if we want to integrate it to one of those features?
MLS committees meet and they look at different features and they look at different third parties around in the industry.
Is it our board's responsibility to reach out to you to ask you to put that in, or is it something you offer?
Yeah, because you have to sign agreements with those third-party vendors. So we'll work with any of the vendors, but you still have to contact those vendors, get an agreement with them. Once you have that relationship with that vendor, then we can do the integration. We can't just turn stuff on because you need to have that relationship with the vendors.
But at the same time, you are telling us that these things are available to us. It's just up to us to then say
Absolutely.
we're interested.
Yeah, and it's not just us telling you, like a vendor will go out and contact the boards and they're selling themselves and we just work with all of them. So it's kind of an iffy thing. It's not like we'll tell you to go work with all the different vendors. Those vendors contact different boards and then you work with them. So it could just be your committee was never told that
Do you
they work
normally
there.
see a fee from the vendor for turning on any of these options?
It depends on the vendor. Things like Find, I showed you the Find link. Find doesn't charge you anything, but they do want your data. So it's an agreement of, here, we'll give you our sold data and you give us access. So there's different things like that. It's not always money, but sometimes it is. Yes, sir?
What size association is this?
Barry's?
Berries?
They're huge. They're
Yeah.
all East Bay, San Francisco.
So they had some clout negotiating with these.
Oh, yeah.
vendors?
Oh, they
Yeah.
do, yeah.
With 350 members.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Although generally speaking, the vendors are very anxious to be part of any MLS, so,
True.
you know.
Things like,
If I can say this one more time, I know that you want to take questions as we go along, but they will ask questions throughout the
Okay.
whole. So you guys need to get through your demo, and then you can ask questions at the end.
Okay.
All right.
Okay?
we'll keep going. All right, let's get into a couple other features. Let's talk about the speed bar on the top. You may have used it for looking up a listing number. You may have used it for looking up an address. You may have started using it when it first came out, like 6 years ago, when it had some problems and then never touched it again. You may not even see it because there's the ability to hit a little button and have it go away. So if you're looking saying, I didn't know there was a speed search, yours is probably turned off. So if you hit the little button to turn it on, you can actually do all kinds of things in here. So if I wanted to say, look for listing numbers, I cheated, I typed some out, but I could just type in listing numbers, separate them with a comma. It'll pull up the listings. I can hit enter and pull up those listings. So you can enter as many listings as you want, just separating them with commas, and you can do a quick listing number search. You could do full address searches in here. I could do things like, let me just see any listings that are in, what is it, Villas of Key West. Did I spell it right? Nope. You do have to spell it right. So there's 82 listings in Vista of Key West. You can get fancy with it. You know what, just show me only the, actually let me just see ones that are over 700,000 in that area. Let's get rid of Vista of the Key West. Let's just look for 700,000 up that are residential, that have 3 or more beds.
And notice that on the fly, it's giving you the count, so you can see right away how many match.
And let's add a little more, let's say more than 3 baths too.
Are you putting a comma each time?
Yes.
Yeah, not a comma, putting
semicolon.
a semicolon each time.
And there's a little question mark to the left here. If you click on that, it gives you a complete help on how to use this field with examples and all the different tags you can use.
Maddie,
So, yes.
Counts on the fly is something that's new, we just turned that on.
I'll be showing that to you.
Yeah. This one has always had it. This is on the speed search. It's always been counting on the fly. The other one is within the search screens.
Right. So you can do things like I put a dash, so I went 700,000 to 750,000. Edit in Resi, did beds and baths. You know what? Maybe I only want active properties instead of everything. So it's just an easy way. You can basically type out a search and pull things up really quickly. Everything's on the fly as it does it, and I can always come in here and hit revise. So if I go now to revise my criteria, it's going to populate with everything that I had typed in. So now I could go, I could save that search, I could manage that search, I could do all kinds of things.
So you've had that search since the beginning. I wonder how many of you have ever really used it.
So you do have to know little tags, like to put a $ in front of a dollar, to put BD after beds. If you hit this little question mark, as Maddie said, it's going to open behind the scene here. This gives you all kinds of examples of how you can use it. And there's a little video here.
Tutorial as well. So
let's talk about a couple other things. Okay, I've had these listings up. Let's talk about our grids a little bit. And we have a very powerful grid system within Rapattoni. It lets you do things like drag and drop fields around, so I can move things just by dragging and dropping them around. You can fully customize them. I'll show that in a second, but you can also group by them. So I'm looking at these properties. Let's say I wanted to say, you know what, let's go ahead and group those by, actually I don't like this grid. Let's change to a different grid. Let's say I wanted to group by baths. So if I drop baths up there, now I'm looking at all my properties grouped by the number of baths. I could do that with something else too. Maybe I wanted to first look at it by Key Island, and then from Key Island, now break it down by baths and bedrooms. So you can go in and you can group your information as you're looking at it by using it within the grids. You can also fully customize these grids. So if you are used to using a grid that looks like, I think this is your standard grid, and you've hated a field on it, or you wish it looked different, or you wish it was something that was easier to print, you can always customize these. So all you need to do is go to Customize Grid. And you have a bunch of options here. I can just customize the one that exists here just by making changes. Maybe I don't want to mess that one up, but I want to create a new grid. I can hit Copy, and this will let me give it my own name. Let's make a comment grid. Now I can go in and make changes and set up my own kind of grid. So let's say, let's make this a little shorter. I'm going to get rid of a couple things.
what's nice about this, while he's making some changes, you could have a grid for, say, condos, which have all the HOA fields on it, and you can just switch to that grid when you're searching for condos. As opposed to single-family homes, you might want some other type of information. You can have any number of grids that you want. You can just keep on creating them to your heart's content and then just select them when you're viewing your listings.
So I'm just going to add a couple comments in here. I'm adding agent remarks. Bonus sounds cool, so I'm going to add bonus. Let's add marketing remarks. I think that's all your remark fields. Let's go ahead and save that. Go back to my list. Now I've created a new grid, which I called comments grid. And it has all these cool comment fields in it. Now I can do things like, let's take bonus, and let's sort by bonus so I can see all the yeses. Oh, there's no yeses. So some cool things you can do with grids and save them and move them around.
Seller's market.
Yeah.
I like to create a print grid and demo it. So I create a grid that's kind of designed for a one-page print. You may or may not know it, but there's a little button up here if you just want to print what you're looking at. So I can check off the listings. It will only show listings that you check off. I can hit that little print button, and it'll pull up a print-friendly version of the display I'm on. So what I did is I created one that got rid of all those little buttons at the end, because you don't want to show those. You can't do anything with them. I can still come in here and even from here say, you know what, I really wanted to put neighborhoods over here before I print it out. And then I can either open this as a PDF, I can hide the borders, I can just print it from here.
So that's a quick way of kind of writing your own report if you want. You can just create your own grid and then print it out.
When you do create these, you might like it better than the one that just always defaults. So if you go to your admin and go to your preferences, you can decide which grids or what display you'd like to always start with. So if I come down to my search results, and now I want to change this to my comment grid, now whenever I run results, it's going to come back with that grid as the first one I'm looking at instead of the default one.
It'll also remember any changes you made. So if you're looking at a grid and you decide to group them by area or bedrooms or bathrooms, unless you undo it, it'll remember that for the next time. So once you've got it the way you like it, it'll stay like that. Okay.
I do want to also point out there is a restore defaults button here. So if you go in and you're afraid to mess with it because you'll mess it up and you'll never get back to what it was, you can always come back here, restore defaults, it'll reset it, and then you can move on.
And then you have to start all over again.
Well, you do, but I'm assuming you messed up and then you wanted to start over.
It's a fail-safe.
That's everything agents can do. The MLS can also create additional standard grids. If you want to create a grid and say, I want this to be available for all my members, the MLS could create a grid and have us set it as another default grid so that there's more than one option. And you can do the same thing with hot sheet grids too. They're different. Okay, so that's showing some grids, some of the speed search. Let me go in and actually look at a listing and talk about a few things on listings. So I'm going to go to a search I've already set up called with a bunch of listings in it. I want to talk about find comparables, which may or may not be using. So if I'm on a particular listing, so I'm going to look at this listing detail. This is a good opportunity to point out all the fields that are on here are custom per MLS. So the layout of what fields are up on the summary, what things are called, what choices are there, that's all custom for every MLS and can be modified and changed. So I know a lot of times when you're looking at other vendors, you'll say, oh, we want that field. Every vendor can have every field that exists. It's all just coming up with what changes you want to make. So I want to point out that there's a button up here called Find Comparables. What it does is if I click on it, it's going to find comparable listings around the listing I'm looking at and pull them all back, like a little quick CMA. So this pulled out back my subject property at the top, and then all the comparable listings around. And it started on that comment grid that I set up saying that that's my new default. You can also modify this. So if now I've ran this quick CMA and I want to add something more to it, I can always hit Revise Criteria. It's going to save what it used for that CMA. And now I can add to different things. So I can come in here and say, let's say I wanted to add central AC. Because I would want to add that. So now I limited it down to 15 listings.
There's your kept on the plan.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So Madeline was pointing out This is something you guys recently turned on. As you're coming down and making changes, notice this little counts on the fly will change as you're going through with the number of listings that match your results as you're going through each different field. So it just makes it more convenient to know, oh, I have no listings or I have 10,000. I need to limit this down more. It's possible you've clicked that CMA button and nothing came up. There's a default to how strict you want that comps to be. So the way you can manage that is the board sets a general saying this is how it's going to work for everybody, but you can always customize pretty much anything yourself. So if I come and go to admin up here, and I go to find comparable setup, I can now modify this setup to be the way I want it to work. So I can change the radius, maybe 1 mile is too much or not enough. I can also change how it's looking at the adjustments. So I think yours defaults to 0000. So that means if my property was 2 bedroom, 2 bath, it's only going to find 2 bedroom, 2 bath properties because it's not adding any adjustment to it. If I'd like, I can make that a little more adjusted. So what I did is I changed mine to +1, -1 on both. So now when I hit that find comparables button, if I have a 2 bedroom, 2 bath, it's looking for 1 to, wait, make sure my math is right, thank you. 1 to 3 and 1 to 3. So it just makes it a little broader. You can also narrow down what statuses you'd like to use. So maybe it starts with everything and you'd like to narrow down the statuses it's pulling back. And you can get in and add structure and lot size if you'd like as well. So if you wanted to really look at those and have an adjustment for structure or lot size, you can add that in as well.
There's a tutorial that explains all of that as well, if
Yes.
you're not sure how to use it. But it's a powerful tool. If you have it set up right, it'll really help you.
So now that I've set my defaults, now every time I run my CMA button, it'll pull up more information. Let's go back to, Maddie, I know you wanted to talk about the parcel mapping, right? Okay. I'm going to hand this off to Maddie. She's going to take you through parcel mapping.
All right, so one of the good features we have in the system you may not be taking full advantage of is the parcel mapping. I'm going to just pick a particular listing here. By the way, I don't know if you realize this, but you can get straight to parcel mapping from this interactive map link right here on listing detail. And you can also map it by selecting it from a list and clicking map. I'm just going to click right here and go into the parcel mapping. I've asked for a specific listing, so it's zoomed right down. And you all have had this for a while, but I don't know if you know how rich the layers are on this. Just before we turn on the parcels, I just want to point out some of the features you have here. For example, if you click here for listings, it's going to actually put a yellow dot for all of the active listings that are currently in the system. And if you click on any of these dots, it'll actually bring up some information. And you can go all the way in and actually look at the listing, add it to a cart, etc. So you've got listings, parcel outlines. You can even, nothing's going to come up because I don't have any listings, but there is an option here to show your office listings and your company listings on the map. You can do pending listings, rental listings, open houses within the next 24 hours. You can even look at expired listings past 30 days, 90 days, etc., temporary off markets and cancelled. And then this is another powerful feature, all the listed sales. So these are MLS listed sales. So if I go, for example, past 0 to 6 months, it's going to put a purple dot everywhere there was an MLS listed sale in this area. But even more powerful is I can also put on here county listed sales. Now where this becomes really useful is for finding FSBOs. Because if I click here, I believe there's an example right here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Let's see if I can get in. Here's an example of a listing. You notice that there is no MLS sale for this, but there is a county recorded sale. So I can actually go in here and find out where the FSBOs are. Okay? Another feature that we've just added, which you were probably not aware of at all, is the notice of defaults and the trustee auctions layer. So for example, if I click here, let's get rid of this, there's one right there. There's a notice of default that was posted in the last 31 to 60 days. If I click here, I can read all about it and even get a report. Okay? Another feature we added are trustee auctions. And there's a trustee auction right there. You can get a report. You can also actually see county-wide all of the trustee auctions. So this is quite a lot of very useful information. Going on down, then we have points of interest. We've got the flood data, subdivisions, unimproved. Yeah,
Flood is huge for us.
Yes.
I'd like to see that.
sure. Click that.
I clicked it, it said everything.
Pretty much.
No.
As we come out, you can get a better idea.
Nice.
Now, one thing that you may not be aware of, and I'm directing this more to the MLS committee members that might be here, we can add any layer to this map. So for example, if you wanted a layer that's your subdivisions, if you can provide us with a map of the subdivisions, we can create that as a layer. We've done customized layers all over the country using this parcel mapping. I believe we're the only vendor that has our own GIS department. They're out of Washington State and they're ours. We have our own GIS. So this is very powerful. So if you've got the data, we can do it. The other thing we can do with that is also auto-populate your listings. Yeah, sorry. Which is very powerful. So for example, if you're having a problem maybe with listings not going into the right subdivision, if you provide us with a layer that shows the outlines of your subdivisions, we can use that information to auto-populate listings, areas, that type of thing. So it's a very powerful tool. Okay, let's talk about actual parcels. I'm going to turn this off and zoom back in. When you get down to a certain level, you'll notice that the option to turn parcels is highlighted. And what this will do now is it's going to go out and find all the parcel outline information, which you can see here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit further just to get, let's see. Okay. When you're on the parcels, there's all sorts of information you can get. There's a property report. The property report combines spatial data, tax information, and MLS data. Now, it'll depend on how much history there is for each parcel. This one doesn't have MLS history, but if we clicked on one that does, this is a very rich report. So it pulls from all three sources to pull a report that you can print. The tax information will just take you through to the real list information for that listing. You can turn on the size, which will tell you the size of each parcel. You can also look at the dimensions, for example. That can be quite useful. And again, you can see now the dimensions of each lot. Another thing you can do, I'm going to turn that off, which I don't know if you're aware you can do. If you hold the control key down and click parcels, you can print labels. So what it's doing is it's pulling the addresses from each of these parcels, and when you're ready, you can just click print labels. Okay? So I wonder how many of you have ever actually taken advantage of these things. You probably didn't even realize you had them. Yeah, it's very rich tool. The other thing you can do, which is part of this whole feature, you can do measurements, which will let you, click somewhere and then figure out the measurements. You can do markers, where you can actually add a marker to the map, put a label in it, and print a report out. Maybe you want to point out to your seller where the local kindergarten is or something like that. You can do that. And then so on and so forth. Directions and routing. You can pick listings and add them to a route. So it's a very powerful tool that I would imagine you may not be taking full advantage of. So you can get to this map anywhere you can check off a listing. You can plot it on a map. And when you zoom down, you can get to the parcels. One other thing you may not be aware of, I'm going to go back to the home page. You don't have to have a listing in order to get to the map. If you go to the Maps option here on the menu bar, there's a thing called Map Explorer. If you click that, it brings up the map of the area. You don't have to have listings, it'll just show it to you. And from there, you can go down and you can actually, turn on all those layers that we talked about. So you could start just from the map level and go down. If you find a listing from this view, and you want to keep it, you can add it to a cart straight from here. So if you find something, you can go, add to cart, and you can either add it to an existing cart or create a new one. So that's another feature you may not have realized you have. So all of the richness that I just showed you when you're looking at a listing, you can get to straight from Map Explorer. Okay, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Maddie. Okie doke. I'm going to talk about market-wide statistics. You have integration with Trend Graphics. I'm going to show you both what you have today, and I know part of our agreement we offered you the upgraded piece of it. I don't know, have we turned that stuff on yet? I don't think so. Have we? Well, then I'll pull the live one up. Yeah, okay. So Trend Graphics is large market-wide statistics for your entire area. What they do is they pull in all the data. It's a partnership that we have with them, so we offer it through our system. They pull in all the data, they manipulate it, they clean it up, and then they have it so you can do these market-wide statistics. I'm going to hit some of the key features on this. You can do a whole 4-hour training on this thing. It's very, very deep. So one I'll show you on the side are all the different search criteria. So over on the left are all the ways I can break down the data and bring it back. This is actually can be customized per MLS. So if there is a field that you guys are missing here and you're like, it'd be really great if this field existed, your board can contact us and we can work and add that in there. The way we come up with these fields is really based on the data that's created. So they'll take the data, manipulate it, crunch it, and then come back and say, based on the data, these are the fields that we think will give you the best results for your statistics. Talk real quick about some of the graphs going across. Sale versus sold. There's different kinds of breakdowns of how you want to bring that data back, all of them with different graphs representing the information. Average price per square foot, days on market breakdowns, average price sale versus sold breakdowns, months of inventory breakdowns. There's also a...
Can you print that or send it to Excel?
Yes, you can print all of this with any of these reports. You can email these out. Whenever I do print, I'm going to go ahead and hit print real quick. When you print it, you get to choose what reports you want to use and what graphs you'd like to include. So you kind of build your report when you come in here with what you want to display. There's actually 2 versions of report. This is a very deep report. They've recently added a new one that really makes it a little more friendly and understandable. It's called the Market Summary Report. They've added a couple things as part of this. One's these market highlights. So on any of these graphs, you can highlight the market highlights, and it'll tell you if it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, or a neutral market based on this information and the breakdown within that. It'll do that for every one of the graphs, as well as if you click this market summary, it's kind of like a complement to a CMA. So I can put some information in here. Let's, just so it shows up in the top, put my name. I'm not going to put it all, but just so I can show you where it goes. I could put a picture here if I have a picture of myself hosted on a website and create that report. So this, if I had my picture and any of my more information, it would show there. Basically, this takes that property and now breaks it down into, is this a buyer's market, a seller's market, a neutral market, and then gives you every one of the graphs with the information next to it. I don't know why I'm not getting graphs. What did I pick as my listings? 0? I might want to do a better search.
That's not our zip code.
No, that's right. You
Oh.
didn't pick a good example.
Is that what I did?
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have any data for me.
Oh, there we go. Why don't we try it with your actual data?
Yeah.
Bad presenter.
There.
Oh, it looks much prettier with graphs. So that gives you an example of that report and how the graphs look.
There's also tutorials available from this site. Let's show them where that. There's tutorials and just online help, which are quite useful because they actually walk you through how to describe these charts to your potential buyer or seller, which will, help educate you on how you can really use these graphs to augment your sales process.
So the way the trainings are broken down is there's two different sections. Are you talking to buyers or are you talking to sellers? And then as you click on any of the options, it'll take you to a little video.
And it explains what you're looking at and how to talk about it.
Right. So you can't hear it because it's down here, but these take you through full tutorials on how to do it. We can also come out and do training on this feature as well if you'd like. Hit a couple other things. You also have a post to web widget here. This is a widget that you can put on your website, and it has lead generation built into it as well. So I can come and grab this graph and say I want to add lead generation and put my email address. Now I can post this graph on my website, and if somebody clicks on this, want more information, it'll give them the ability to narrow down exactly what they'd like you to send them, and it'll send you off an email so you can create the reports and now build a relationship back and forth. Let's go back up. Is there anything else I wanted to show with trends, Maddie?
I think we covered most of it.
Okay. So some of those features were new, all that market summary and the post to web, those are all new things that you've recently turned on. Okay, what do I want to touch next? I do want to point out we recently enhanced your system by adding in a new report manager. So we'll kind of talk about that for just a minute. So now, actually, let me go pull. When you go to reports now, you may have noticed it changed recently,
Yes.
where now you can save different report packages. So what this does is, we really took away all the limitations. Used to be limited to 4 reports at a time. That limitation is completely gone. Used to be able to only run certain types of reports at the same time. That limitation is completely gone. You didn't used to be able to print attached documents. Now you can print attached documents when you're printing out reports. You can also set up packages and save them so that it's just one click to print them. So I've saved it as my Flyer 7 photo report and a large picture flyer. So that's just what defaults over there. I can always add more reports in or remove them. If you want to save, let's say you change this and you want to save that, if you click the button at the bottom to save that as your default, then whatever reports you've added to your package will be the ones that just always show and you can print out at one click.
You can also add grids. If you've created a nice pretty grid that you use for your search results and you want that to be printable, you can also choose your grids from here as well.
Yeah, there's my little print grid I created. So now I created, it's going to go through and it's going to generate those reports. You may have chose 1,000 listings and 20 reports, and that could take a while. So it does open in a separate window where you could just continue to go work. And then it'll open up once it's done printing out.
The other thing to notice about the attached documents, when you click on attached documents, it's only going to display attachments that are actually on one or more of the listings you've selected. So if you've selected 5 listings and you go to attached documents and it's only showing seller's disclosure, that doesn't mean that seller's disclosure is the only one you can print. It means that that's the only attachment that belongs to the listings you've selected.
So then it's pulling up my reports. I can view them. And now I can either print it out, I can save it, I can even email it. So that one's a recent enhancement. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it, and if you have any problems, give us feedback, because we're always looking to improve the system. The reason this isn't existent is having feedback from agents saying, why can't we do everything at once? Why are you limiting me to 4 reports? Why can't I print attached documents? That's how we get these enhancements, and we're always looking to improve them and improve the design as well. Okey-doke. Another one I want to show that is often missed, and it's hard for me to demo because I don't have listings, but I added a couple incomplete listings so you can get an idea of it, and that is our email alerts. So there's a feature under here called email alerts, and there's a setup and a report. And what this does is it allows you to go in and choose things that you'd like the system to email you and give you notice about. So things like my listings that are coming up to expire, overdue pendings, unmapped listings, incomplete listings, missing pictures, if there's missing attachments, inactive prospects, overdue tasks, and you can set what time you'd like that email to be sent out to you. And what happens is it'll constantly be looking and send an email. You can even change the email address or add more than one person in here if you'd like. And it'll send you an email with this information, or you can also view the report here. So I'm only going to have my incomplete listings I created, but this will give you a report of any of that information. This is both on the agent level and on the broker level. So as an office, if I go into my office menu, I have the same thing here. I can set up my email alerts for my office. And now I can see any of my office listings coming to expire, overdue pendings, missing pictures, all that kind of stuff, emailing you out for the office. And I can add multiple people in here, so if I'd like it to be myself and an assistant or something. Did everybody know this existed?
No.
I think, Matt, is there any other main thing you wanted to go over, or if I'm going to go into mobile
Let's just bring
otherwise?
up the help for a minute.
Sure.
One of the things we do when we upgrade the system on a regular basis, and we know that you're all busy, so we do send broadcast notices out on new features, but half the time you just don't have the time to look at them. There is a feature on the help menu that says what's new. If you go down there, anything that we upgrade the system with, that we send in a broadcast notice, it also goes in here. So you can click on any of these to see what's been added to the system that you may not have paid attention to. So, and where possible, there will be tutorials as well. So if you get a chance, you might want to peruse that, and maybe there's stuff in there you just didn't realize. And it's hard. I mean, we're all guilty of it. I don't read any of my emails either. So, and also there's, of course, online help, and then there's the Learning Center, which has tutorials, and try to keep these tutorials fairly short so that they're quick tutorials, but most of the main features, there's help on that you can go in there and teach yourself how to use it. So just wanted you to be aware of that.
Maddie writes and manages and creates all these videos.
I recognize my accent.
But everything we've talked about, all the different features we've talked about, have videos in here with how to use them and how to use them within your area. All right, I'm going to touch on some mobile options real quick. I was hoping to be able to use AirPlay from my phone, but it won't work on the network here. So I'm going to show it from the PC. So I'm going to open this up and log out of some other stuff. Let's close berries. Let's close that.
So just so you know, he switched to the mobile site straight from the desktop. You guys can do the same thing.
Microphone.
Oh, sorry.
She was saying that you can get to the mobile right from the desktop. So right on your homepage, there's a button here for mobile interface. Let's talk about how we've written our mobile. We've written our mobile as a hybrid web app. So it means it can run on absolutely anything. It can open on your PC, it can open on Android, it can open on iPhone, it opens on a Windows phone. We're also in the process of taking that and turning it into a native app. We've submitted that app to Android to start with, and we're waiting for the approval process to finish, then we'll be rolling that out. As soon as Android approves it, we'll be doing the same thing with iOS. It's the same interface. You won't have to learn a new system, but it turns it into a downloadable app. So the first time you go to the site, it'll say, would you like to download the app? And then it's a native app. Or you can go to the iPhone store or the Android store and download it. It allows us to do a couple things we couldn't do with it in its current state, which is like save your password so you don't have to log in again from your device. Use your native driving directions from your phone instead of the web version that it's using now. And then there's going to be more opportunities for us to add things. Like the next thing we're going to add is the ability for it to link into your contacts and prospects. Not just your contacts and prospects, but your phone's contacts. So that allows us to do a couple extra things. That is going to be coming, I hope, within the next month. It really depends on the review process that we go through with Android and Apple stores. That's really what we're waiting for. Everything works the same, so I'm going to show it from here. That's one of the great things about the way we developed it, is it's one set of software that we just have to develop once and it goes everywhere, and it works on everything. And we're able to kind of link in and do some things in the MLS because of it, which I'll kind of talk about as I get to them. So one thing is it's responsive design, so everything on it, depending on what size device you're on, whether it's a phone or tablet, will change, and I'll kind of show that as we go through. Our navigation is set up to mimic the navigation in the MLS. I should point out that we wrote this from the ground up in-house. So all this was developed by Rapattoni and is supported by Rapattoni. It's not a third party that we're relying on. Because of that, we can do things like make the navigation match our own navigation. So search menu has all of our searches under it. Contacts will have contacts. Listings will have listings, just like in the MLS bar across the top. Up at the top, you can click on the little magnifying glass, and it'll pull up the ability to do a quick search. So I can do the same thing as I could do from the quick search. I can do an address search, a listing number search, find a location. We're actually enhancing this. You're going to see an enhancement come out within the next month or so, where that bar is going to always show up at the top. And Maddie will show that when we talk about things that are coming in the soon future. But this is going to be always at the top, and we're also making some changes to make it a little smarter with the way it finds properties, and we'll talk about that. But I can easily type in an address. So if I wanted to get, let's go to Flagler Avenue, and it will just quickly drop me down to find properties around Flagler Avenue. I can also change it and say, you know what, don't just take me to a location. I want to find a specific address in the MLS. So I can always change that to listing address search, and then I could find specific address. So I could say, 3357 Flagler. And now it'll take me to that exact address. Some of the things we're doing, as I said, Maddie's going to talk about some enhancements we're making. One of the enhancements is just making that search bar smarter, where you don't have to pick from address or location. If it's an address that exists, it's going to take you to that property. If it can't find a property, then it'll turn into a location search. So we're constantly enhancing this, trying to make it more and more intuitive. We actually came out with our mobile about 2 years ago, and our first release, everybody hated, and we got tons of feedback on it to recreate it and reinvent it. And this is the reinvention of all the feedback we received from agents. And we received a lot of feedback because, as you know, you're 75% of the time you're using your mobile device now. It's not really desktop centric. So we're constantly enhancing this, constantly adding new features, constantly updating it, and trying to make it as intuitive and easy to use as possible. So now I'm looking at properties. I can always switch between the list and the map. Anytime I'm looking at properties, I can always revise my criteria. So I can click on Revise Criteria and then go in and change it to any field. So maybe I want to now just look at residential. And I have all my residential fields. You may or may not know, this is just what it starts with. You can hit Add Remove Fields, and you can search on any field in the MLS. There's no limitation to what you can search on the mobile. There's also a little find here, so if I need to be able to find something, I can find water view. And now I've added that to my search criteria. I'm going to go back home. So I talked about the quick search. Let's kind of talk about the other types of searching you can do. So there's really two ways you can start a search. One is, I just want to start at a map and find properties and kind of navigate around and look at properties. And then I can always come here and revise my criteria and limit it down. That's going right to a map search. I want to start on a map and I want to look for properties. I can also start on just a property search. I want to start on a search and narrow down my criteria and then take me to listings. So from here, I can use any of the fields in the MLS, and I can narrow down my search. I talked about the fact that it's responsive design. Depending on what device you're on, it's going to look a little different and take advantage of the real estate. So I'm on like a phone size now, so all I can get is this little card. If this was bigger in an actual tablet, you notice now it's going to turn into a grid with much more information going across the top. This grid can be customized per MLS. So if there's a field that you're not seeing here that you're like, in our area, it would really make sense if this was always on my tablet grid, let your board know, and they can have us add fields and adjust it and add whatever you need to have to it. And that's per property type. Let me go into a listing detail. So if I just tap on the property, it'll take me into a listing detail. And I want to show that from here too. I'm in a phone style, so it's geared for going right down on a phone. I can flip through my pictures. If I expand this out now, maybe I get to an iPad mini size, or I'm getting a little bigger, or I'm on my Surface size. It can get larger and larger. And we've recently added, let me find a listing that has them. I think I saved a couple.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the app, save searches, does it pull in your saved searches?
No, that's a really good question. On the app today, the saved searches that you save on the phone are different from the saved searches in the MLS. Fortunately, that's just a byproduct of the fact that we redesigned all the searching on here to be faster for mobile. We are going to be moving that to the desktop, and when that happens, those two will sync together. But today, your saved searches are different from the mobile and from the desktop. Things that aren't different are the carts are the same. The carts go back and forth, so any listings you throw in the cart will be in both places, and your prospects are in both places as well. It's just the searches that we haven't been able to sync yet. So you notice now that I've moved it up to tablet size, much bigger pictures. I can also tap on it and hit this little expand button here on the side, and it'll open up to a full screen view. I talked about the fact we just recently added the HD pictures. That's only step one. Step two was we're adding this picture viewer to the desktop. And that's going to be coming in the next, is it a month or two?
About 2 months.
In about 2 months, that'll be moving to the desktop. So that way, anywhere you look at pictures, both for the public and in the MLS, we'll be using this larger picture viewer style. And then you can do all your different actions from over here as well. So I can add this to my carts, and again, the carts go back and forth. I can add this to a prospect. I can revise this listing if this is my listing. So there is revise on the tablet. It's not the entire listing. It lets you do things like update status information, comments and remarks, change the price of the listing, and manage your pictures. You can upload your pictures directly from your phone or from your tablet as well. I can share this listing. So if it's your listing, you can Facebook from here. If not, you can do email. Email works just like the report manager does in the MLS. So you choose your report. It has all your different client viewable reports here. I can go ahead and add any of the reports that I'd like to add. When I say done, now I can update that email and email it out. I'm not going to actually send it though. And I can do driving directions. And today this does open a web version, I'll get you in 1 second, a web version of the driving directions. The native app is going to work with your native driving directions so that you can have the voice by driving. Yes, sir?
The email out, it's a PDF only?
No, it goes out as a link. It's a HTML link, yes. We avoid emailing PDFs because sometimes they get spam blocked. This little summary screen up at the top is custom per MLS and per property type. So if there is, again, a key field that's missing from here, let your MLS staff know and they can have it added and change what's there. They can actually do that kind of stuff themselves. So under admin, if you're staff, there's a staff tool, and the staff can set up the default searching. The staff can change the color to match your board. So if you wanted to change the color of your entire product to this sweet burnt orange. Set up the default sorting, and set up that summary page of what fields are the key fields at the very top of that property. Let's go back home. So I talked about running a map search, running a standard search. You can, of course, run a hot sheet from here as well. So let's just run a 3 days back hot sheet. And it works exactly like it does in the MLS. It's going to narrow it down, grouped by the type of change, and then all the listings within there. Recent and saved searches, again, those are only within the device. I can do open house searches. Let's see if there's any open houses. There's one open house. They're going to get some advertising. So when I'm looking at open houses, it'll have a little open house section, and it's going to show any future open houses here as well. So you can see anything coming up, not just the one that's in the immediate future. You also use caravans. You can do your caravans from here as well. So you have a Key West wait list. I can click on this and see all the listings in the caravan with the caravan information and comments. I can map them from here. It'll show me which number they are, and I can also print out the map, the report. So if I go to reports up under more, well, if I check some listings first, you have a few different reports. It looks like a couple of them are custom. So if I grab that, I can go ahead and save that report. If you do this from your phone, like if I open this up on my iPhone, it'll ask me if I want to add it to my iBooks, and you can save it there as well, and then view it at any time. Contacts and prospects. You can get to all of your contacts and prospects. This is another place where if I'm using a tablet, I have this full view where it's going to show me how many matched, how many agent recommended, saved. I can go and look at the carts. I can click on the little button at the end, and I can actually go into the cart, so I can see the cart exactly how the client would be seeing it. If I'm looking at this from a phone, it's going to go down, and you'll have your filtering up on the top here, where I can change and decide what I want to look at. If I click on the little prospect cart, that would then take me into that prospect where I can see all their listings. And then from the top here, I can say all listings, newly matched, agent recommended, saved. And you can move them around and do everything you can do in the desktop. So if I wanted to move these to rejected. There's also a full agent office search here, so I can look up agents. Let's go, it's probably Smith. So I can view and contact. It also works with your phone. I'm not using my iPhone, but if you hold down the button on your iPhone, it'll pop up and ask you, do you want to call them? Do you want to FaceTime them? Do you want to save them as a contact? All the integration with your phone. Same thing on an Android, it'll do the same things. You hold it, you hit it, and it'll pop up another menu that says, do you want to call them? What's their version of FaceTime? They have something. Save them as a contact, all those different options. Same thing with email address. If you hold down the email address, it'll pop up, ask you if you want to email them or if you want to save them as a content. I had a question over here? No? Okay. If I go to listings, there's all my listing carts. Here's a link into trends. Trend Graphics works on a mobile device. Doesn't look the best on a phone because it doesn't shrink down, but on a tablet it works really well. I can view my listings really quickly. I can view my office listings really quickly. I had an agent in Victor Valley who said they use this for their phone time. They just have it open with their listings, and they have it at all times. It's an easy link into their listings. Single sign-on links are also available from your mobile device. So any of those single sign-on options you have, so if I click here, I can go into, I think you have Realist on yours. RPR, I'm sorry. So I can go into RPR. Same thing from actual listing. I didn't really show it, but if I'm looking at listings, let's go into my cart. So if I'm looking at a specific listing, up under the More button is where you can do all the different actions that wouldn't fit down here. So I can add and remove from my cart. I can center the map on a property. So if you're looking at a property and you just want to see everything else around it, I can go to any single sign-on links from here. So if I click that, there's my RPR and my Realist neighborhoods. I can jump right into Realist. It's detecting that I'm on a computer, but I think Realist will open up a mobile version if you're on a mobile as well. So that gives you a brief overview over our mobile, all the kind of things it does. It's very robust, and it's going to continue to grow as we move forward. We're constantly adding in features, and we're doing things like bringing the products together so that when you're on a desktop and you click on it, it has the same picture viewer as the desktop does. You guys are you using Syndicate? It doesn't look like you've turned on syndication yet. We have a feature for syndication, for syndicating your listings to third parties, which allows the staff to set up listing syndication. Let me see if you've set anything up yet.
We're working on it.
You're working on it? Let me show you on another customer so I can show it to you. Seems like I'm jumping around, but this was created in the same tool that our mobile is, so that it works on everything. You'll kind of see as you look at it. I'm going to go to Lexington, just because I know they've used it. And log in real quick. Adding the dead time, feel free to sing or...
This is Lexington, Kentucky.
So what we have the ability to do is set up syndication feeds so that brokers can choose where their listings will be syndicated. In the past, that's been done through third parties that you have to go through, like ListHub, do that kind of thing. We've rebuilt it into the MLS so that you can do it from an MLS level and decide who's going to have your listings and give it to the brokers to let them decide. So as staff, you can set up what will be in your syndication manager for any feed that's going to any third party. And as a broker, I go to my office menu, and I will have a new link called Manage Office Syndication. When you click on that, it's going to open up any of the syndication feeds that have been set up, and I can say yes or no, I want my listings opted in or out of these. Once I save that, all my office's listings would be opted out, and they'd no longer receive it. It's totally up to you guys when you build it, what fields go to those vendors, how their rules work, if they had their listings and you want them to get rid of them, if somebody changes it to no, or if they get to keep them. All that's really rules set up on your side. We can support all of it. We can even support to the level where you want to turn it off for everybody, and when you turn it on, you have to agree to a EULA before it actually is turned on. So we can take it very, very deep or very open. We can leave it so you could see but not actually change anything without calling the board. There's a lot of different options on this. As an agent that doesn't have office rights, when I go in, under my listings, I have a link that says View Office Syndication Listings. So your agents will all know what your office is opted in and out of. So that's a new feature. That one just came out, so it makes perfect sense that you don't have it turned on yet. A lot of boards haven't really got all the rules and everything managed to turn that on. I think about 5 or 6 have already managed everything and have it up and running. But as soon as you're ready, you can turn that on, and it just immediately sends it out so brokers can have that control. Anything else, Maddie, you want me to make sure I hit on?
Did you say when you change something on your phone that it goes right through to your desktop as well? Or you have to then go back and, of course, work on your desktop?
What do you mean, like changing a listing status
So if I'm
or?
just going back to defaults right now, looking at vacant land on my iPhone, that's not going to do it on my desktop or my other related
You mean
Apple products.
the saved search or?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the saved search won't be there.
Okay.
That is something we're working on, but it's not there yet. If you were to go in and change your listing or update a photo or add it to a cart
sense.
or modify a prospect, all that stuff is
synced
there.
immediately, yes.
Yeah. Very good question. Okay, let's kind of talk about some of the changes that are coming in the future, the first time we have. So I'm going to hand this off to Maddie and let her kind of talk about what are we working on now. We're only going to talk about the things that are coming up by the end of this year. So you know the recent things we're working on.
Right. The big one that's coming out in the next month is scheduled auto prospecting. So right now when you set up your prospects and you tell the system to go and find listings that match what they're looking for, it's happening on a daily basis. And that's great in some cases, but I'm sure you have some prospects who say it's way too much email. I'd rather get them on a different schedule. So with this new feature, you will have choices per prospect. So one of the choices is immediate. And that's actually another complaint that we've had, and we totally understand it. Agents are saying, how come Zillow's able to send my client a matching listing before the MLS does? Because Zillow does it immediately. So we will be offering immediate updates. That means as soon as a listing hits the MLS that matches a prospect where you have immediate scheduled, they will get that email. Daily updates, which pretty much mimics what you do today, but you'll have a bit more information. Like you'll be able to say things like maybe you want it daily but every 2 days, or daily but only at a certain time of the day. So you'll have that choice. You can do them weekly, and you can also say, let's do it every Monday and Thursday at a certain time. It's a lot of features. It's very robust. And you can even do monthly updates, and you could even make that quarterly by saying send it every 3 months. Where this one comes into play nicely is if you've sold a listing to somebody and you want to keep in front of them, you could set up a search around the listing you sold them, looking for sold listings, and then maybe every quarter send them an email that automatically goes out just saying, by the way, look what's going on in your neck of the woods. So that's coming very shortly. I don't have the exact dates. It's in QA at the moment. I would imagine you'll be getting this around the end of October. Yes.
One thing along that same line that we did just turn on that people may not have noticed yet, we gave the agent the ability to receive the email themselves or not.
Oh, right.
So maybe explain that to people.
Sure. Let's see. I'll have to go into the system. Let me get out of here. Where is it? Destin, which is it opening? Okay, so what Karen's referring to is under prospecting. There is now this information. Before, you did not have the option. If you were sending an email to your client, you always had to receive the email yourself. Now you have the option to say, yes, I do want to send it to my contact, but I don't want to be bothered with them. So you can now do that. That's a new change.
A lot of people have portals and then you're
Sure, exactly. They don't need to be reminded all the time. Another thing we did recently too that I know was a bit of a pain point for some agents, the cart maintenance feature. What this feature does is it lets you keep your client portals maintained. So when you set up a search for somebody, generally speaking, you're looking for active listings. Those listings get sent out, they get put into the cart. At some point, some of those listings are going to go pending and sold and what have you, and you may want to keep those portals fresh. So what the cart maintenance says is, okay, only allow these statuses to remain in the cart. So for example, if one of the listings that went out to my client expires, I don't want them to see an expired listing. So by not allowing expireds, it tells the system that as soon as any of those listings in that prospect's cart goes expired, take them out, don't let them see it. So that's what the cart maintenance does. Now, what we recently added was the ability to make this a default. Currently, you have to set up per prospect what statuses you will allow. Now, under the admin menu, under your preferences, we've added, under prospecting, a default. So you may not have realized this came out just recently. You might want to go in there and check it out, put in your preference, and then moving forward, you won't have to keep on checking all those statuses. Okay? All right, let's go back to here. Okay, the native app, Destin's already explained that we have a native app for Android and iOS. We're just going through the process of dealing with Apple and Android, and once they okay it, we will be releasing that. And one of the features will be the ability to save your login, which will be a good time saver, and using the phone's driving directions. We did touch on this recently, another feature that we're changing. Right now on the mobile, you have to click this. Oh, okay. What do you want to do? Okay. You have to click on the little I was going to show you. Yeah, to pull this up. So a lot of people didn't realize they had it. The new feature, you'll see that field will always be on the top at all times. So you can just quickly type in here if you want to search for a listing. The other change we made was the system will now assume when you type in an address that you're looking for listings that have that address. So if I type in 1234 Emma Street, it'll pull up any listing that has what I typed in there in the address. And it uses contains logic, so you don't have to know the street number, you can just put in the name. And if it cannot find any listings, and obviously it won't be able to return any, it will switch itself to a location search. And what it'll try and do is say, well, okay, I couldn't find any listings with Emma Street, but I'll center the map as close to the first Emma thing I can find, and then it'll plot the listings. So right now we have them divided into an address search and a location search, but it'll be.
Is it possible to turn off notices so that you can sign it faster? Most people don't want to see notices when they're on the mobile.
The broadcast, no, that's a good question. Not right now, but that's a very good point. So you're saying when you log into the mobile, you do not want to see the broadcast notices?
Most people, the biggest thing they're focusing on is how fast can they get to the search.
Right. That's a good, can you make a note of that? Yeah.
They want it to be faster.
Yeah. It's the first I've ever heard of it, but that's a really good idea. Obviously, we'd probably want to leave it on the desktop because the staff won't want us to turn them off there, but that's a good point. Okay.
It is the opposite because we didn't have it at first, and we had boards ask us to add it. So
it would have to be something that the MLS would agree to,
Yeah.
but yeah.
When's this app gonna come out, you said?
Well, you have this right now. We don't know.
iPhone to get the
it
app.
depends on Android and iOS.
Apple,
We've
yeah.
submitted to them, and
We've
there's an
submitted it,
approval
but
process.
they have to go through an approval, so we don't know how long that's
Online, a
taking.
year?
Oh, hopefully not a year. I'm hoping a couple of months.
Yeah,
but-
we're hoping a month.
Yeah. But you have this anyway. This version here you have right now. It'll work with the iOS. Okay. So we're adding the quick search. And then for your convenience, we've also put the listing number search on the home page. You can switch to listing number by clicking this icon and then selecting the number option and typing in a listing number. But we've also added it here just for your convenience. Before we go, I just want one other thing. There's a couple of other things we've added to the mobile that will be coming in the same upgrade. That will be the ability to put in free-form prices as well as selecting from the drop-down. Right now you have to select from the drop-down. You'll be able to type it in. Yeah.
Is it possible to change the default when you go to the quick search? You go directly to the address as a search mechanism?
That's what the new thing's going to do.
Go right to
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what that's what the new feature's doing. So when you'll have the field conveniently open all the time, and as soon as you type, it's assuming listing address. So
I do want to point out, there is a global setting that the board can decide that they'd rather it go to address instead of location. And if you guys want to do that, we can do that now until the upgrade comes out, and it'll start everybody at address instead of location when you log on.
That would be helpful.
okay, let's make a note. We'll talk to Julius about that. We're also adding the ability for the IDX framed sites to be able to search on multiple statuses. NAR made a change a while ago that says not only active listings on IDX can be searched, but also solds. And we'll work with the MLSs to whatever statuses they want to allow, so that's coming as well. We're going to be making some user experiences updates, which I've actually listed on here. One of the things we're going to be changing is you're going to see a slight reskinning of the MLS to make it a little bit brighter, a little more modern. It won't be such a change that you won't know how to use the MLS, but it's kind of hard to see on here, but it's just going to be a little less, like we'll get rid of the dark background and make it a little more friendly. We're going to move the quick search over to the left-hand side. It looks better there. And also we're changing the quick search. Right now, actually we call that the speed search. In the system right now on the desktop, you can search for addresses very easily, but it has to be an exact address. You have to know the number and the street name. We're making a change so that if you just start typing text, it will assume you're looking for an address and it will pull up any matching listings. That's something it doesn't do right now. You'll be able to do that. Also, it's going to be responsive. So if you're using a very high resolution right now, you'll notice that there's always that big space on the right-hand side that's not filled with anything. It will then expand the modules across the page, so it fills up the entire thing. That'll be coming around December time period, this new feature here. The other thing we already talked about was we're going to take the photo viewer from Edge, which is the nice big one that shows the high resolution photos, large, fills up the whole screen. When that feature is turned on, anywhere you look at a listing picture on the desktop or on any of the public or IDX sites, it will use that viewer, so you'll be able to see them enlarged, like as nice and big as they can get. What else do we want to talk about? Do you have any more slides on me?
I don't think so.
No, okay.
Yeah, unless you want to talk about where we're going next time.
Yeah, I think, well, you can talk about that. There's a few more that are all listed here. I don't think we need to go into all them right now, but we're continually improving the system, and we're going to talk a little bit more about next year features.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that we recently just announced, everybody knows there's a lot of market disruptors going around right now. There's Project Upstream, you may have heard of that. RPR's AMP, Broker Public Portal, and Front End of Choice are words going around in the industry and new projects that are starting. Rapattoni is very heavily embracing those and the ability to kind of work with all those different technologies. And what we've recently announced is that we are currently working on splitting our front end and our back end to be able to work with things like Upstream and AMP and allow input from Rapattoni and other boards to be able to utilize that input. We're really positioning ourselves so that if those technologies work, great, we'll be able to work with them. We'll be able to have an MLS where you can search for properties, and we can search not only our database, but also search RPR at the same time, or search for Realist at the same time, and pull all the data back into one display. So those are kind of the future technologies of where we're moving, and we started working on that already. I guess now's a good time. I don't want to get too, and we could keep going through the MLS, but it'll turn in more to a training than anything. We really do want the ability to come out, so hopefully you guys will re-sign with us, and part of that will be us offering to come out and do training for all your members. We also offer training webinars, so we don't even have to come out. We can offer webinars, set them up for times that you can just watch trainings from your mobile device. We also tape those, so we could do a webinar for, let's say you wanted a full webinar on mobile. And we taped it and sent it out, and you could post it and give it to people. So you have a lot of options for training we hope you take advantage of. And I will open it up for questions. Ooh, no questions.
Yes. Question. One of the biggest concerns for our members with our data share is that we cannot have access to each other's attached documents. Is that something that you guys could work on?
Yeah, it is something we've been working on for you guys. And I don't know where it was at when we left, but we were working with Flex for the ability to pull those attached documents and display them. So I can look at where it is, but it is something we're looking at trying to add. It's possible. We have other boards doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this may seem dumb because I don't understand why. When we get Flex info, the pictures are little bitty. Why is that?
They're really what?
They're
small.
When they're pulling into the MLS?
When we pull from Flex
Uh-huh.
to Rapattoni, the Flex listings show up with photographs that are like this, where our photographs are visible. Theirs are really small.
They
they're
should
hard
be
to see.
providing multiple versions of the picture for us to pull.
Yeah, we'll have to
So
look
we'll have to look
We
into.
pull whatever version they give
Yeah.
us, and maybe they're
That's
giving us a smaller resolution.
Probably a good question to ask them when they're here too, and we'll go back and look at the data share and see what we're pulling. But I know when we offer pictures, we offer the ability for them to pull either the smaller picture or the high res. It could be the same thing, and maybe we're not getting the high res.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
The graphing portion of the MLS, I've tried that in the Big Pine area, and it seems to only pull from our association information as opposed to pulling from the data share.
Oh,
So if you actually,
trends, yeah.
for example, if you go all the way to Marathon,
Oh, for the-
tried to graph what's going on, you would see there's nothing going on.
For this one, for the trends graphics?
Yes.
We'll have to have your board check your agreement. Because it's a third party that pulls the data in and manipulates it, we might not be allowed to use their data.
Okay.
So it's probably more of an agreement with them saying, yes, you can use our data. Most of the time when you have a data share, you're not allowed to send the data anywhere third party.
Alright.
So
Because when I first discovered it, it was like, wow, this is awesome. And then I tried it on Big Pine Key, it was like, oh,
yeah,
wow, what happened?
can you write that down too? Because we'll double check, but it'll be, Yadiris, we'll have to find out what the agreement is. And we can definitely do it and add it in there.
Thank you.
Did I steal your pen?
Yes, you did.
Probably put it in my bag. I did steal it. Any other questions?
I have one, please.
Yeah.
Recently, you changed the print screen. My favorite report is client detail with additional photos.
Uh-huh.
I had a client in the office the other day. I tried to print her 6 properties, and it took me over 20 minutes to print those because I guess with the additional photos, I tried to print them all 6 at the same time. Then I went in and tried to print 3 of them, still wouldn't work. Tried to print 2, ended up having to print 1 by 1.
Which report was it? Because I'll take a look at it.
Client detail with additional photos.
Same thing happened to me.
Okay. Sounds like that report's broken.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it and we'll fix it.
It would actually time out sometimes too.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys get that stuff, make sure we know, because I want to make
We
sure.
spoke with your tech support, and they said that they were working on it.
Okay, and there's probably already signed open for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Client summary, this one here?
No, client detail,
Detail, it's that one.
This one?
additional
That
photos.
one.
That's
Okay.
4 days ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to save it so I can test it when we get back and I'll get it fixed. Okey doke. All right. Yes.
I think you said if we renewed with you guys, we would get a, did you call it a revamp? of the-
Or redesign.
Yeah, so we actually suggest doing redesigns every 3 years. What a redesign is, I mean, you guys signed up with us 10 years ago, so business has changed over 10 years. So what we do is we come out with somebody like myself or another implementation person, and we sit with your committee and we go through the whole setup, kind of like you were new, saying, okay, what's changed in your market? Are there any fields you'd like to add? How can we kind of create new reports for you to refreshen up your reports? So we go through everything and just kind of freshen up the site and make sure that we're meeting all your new business rules and adding any fields and all that kind of stuff. It usually takes about 3 to 5 days, depending on how deep we really get into everything. And usually you end up with new reports and all kinds of new stuff.
And there may be features that you just didn't turn on because at the time it didn't make sense and now it does. So we go through all of those with you.
Yeah, we have features like, we have the ability to address copyright issues with photos by having agents assign copyright to the MLS when they load them. We do things like, what are some other things not everybody uses? What's the, San Francisco uses, darn it, the off-market listings one.
Oh, coming soon.
Coming soon
Yeah,
listings.
yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about coming soon listings, where a listing's not on the market yet, but you put it in the MLS in a coming soon kind of status. We can do things like that. So there's a lot of little features and little business rules that other MLSs might be doing, and those are the things we talk about when we're out. So you make sure you're taking advantage of everything.
And you might want to review all the third parties that we integrate with, because chances are a lot of your brokers are already working with these third parties, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have SSO links to them. If you know, we've already done it. It's nothing for us to turn them on. You just have to tell us which ones you want.
In that other MLS, the bar IS one that you had up earlier, you had all the single sign-ons on the side.
Oh, yeah.
One of those, if I'm not mistaken, you were saying was like a combined MLS login for them?
Yes.
Would that be beneficial in our situation, knowing our circumstances that we've been dealing with for the last 10 years? Would something like that help with our data integration issues and the, giving people the ability to
It may. It has pluses and negatives. So the plus is you guys can go in and basically design it with the fields in the best way so that all the data is the cleanest. So in that way, it's really helpful. The downside is then you have another database you have to go to do things. So you end up with 2 sets of prospect searches and 2 sets of everything. So it really depends on the market area. For them, it makes sense because they have 8 different boards and they're not all next to each other. So they've used that Quattro for statistics and big things, and some agents use it for everything if they're all over the place. But for them, it makes sense. They also do something interesting where even though they have a data share with multiple boards, you can only enter listings into yours and belong to one, and then the listings go to everyone else, so it keeps it nice and clean.
And that sort of stuff we could.
Yeah. The big thing on data shares require a very good relationship and partnership, and that's what makes them successful. The technology is usually not a challenge. The technology is the same everybody uses for everywhere. And we have data shares with every vendor there is. It's agreeing on the right fields, it's agreeing on the right business rules, and maintaining a good relationship.
Do you have a question?
What is the ability to export data from Rapattoni, regardless of whether we're talking contacts or reports?
Sure.
CSV, Excel.
So you can go in and under your admin, you may or may not know that you have a, let me find it, a export setup. Custom export setup. So from here, I can go and I can create a new export. You can choose how you want it to be set up, if you want it to be CSV or not. Actually, I'm seeing a little more than you would because I'm in a staff. So you won't see some of these things like scheduling it. But then I can create an export, call it whatever I want, and add any field in the MLS to it. So you can create full custom exports to, like, let's say you wanted an Excel export with any particular fields. They're all available to set up those exports and save. So here's, do I want it Excel? Do I want it tab delimited? Do I want a custom delimiter? Maybe I want it pipe.
What are you thinking, Michael?
Well, for the purposes of reports, is one of the ways that we use it to manipulate the reports for our own benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ways we want to look at things, so we're looking at statistics
Right.
specifically. And the other question would be
I don't know how.
specifically to contacts. So that if you're wanting to make your contacts available to a third party, regardless of this discussion about Rapattoni and like some other enterprise that you're trying to use.
Sure.
Can you get your contacts?
Yes.
Yeah, and you can actually, there's a contact export as well. It's an Excel export
You can
for
do it
contacts.
Right now. Yeah.
This-
You have this available now.
You can't customize this export, the one for contacts, but the board can. So the board can set up a board level export with whatever fields they want to put in it, and then make it available for you guys to export. We have an export and an import that you can turn on. Most boards turn off the import after you've been live for a little while, but it is an available option to be able to export and import contacts.
I think we have export turned off now.
You have export?
I think so, because I think we voted that we didn't want to blast everybody.
Yeah, so that's a,
People were,
Yeah.
I think from what I understand, even if we did as a board agree to be able to blast the membership, in your preferences, I could go and turn, if I don't want to get everybody's email, I
Yes,
can turn off
so-
when I don't want to get them, right?
Yeah, that's the agent export, but.
so there's also an agent
There's
export
an agent
here?
export, and then there's a contacts export, so
Okay.
I think you might have the contacts one still
Okay.
turned on.
Yeah. That is another example, though. There is an agent export for exporting agent contact information. And this is a board decision whether you turn it on or not.
It's there, Destin, but I don't think it does anything.
Let's try. Everybody who speaks American.
They won't be.
I just want to see if it does anything. I'm actually in as staff too, so.
So maybe the staff you can.
Yeah, you don't have any, you don't have
No, you
anything.
got it.
Because it's-
Yeah.
Doesn't say American.
It doesn't say American, it says.
Oh, did it? I'm sorry. And I have my glasses
Pretty sure
on.
that's Iranian, it wasn't American.
That's why there
Navajo.
wasn't anything. Maybe.
So yeah, that's a board option. A lot of these things of what data you can send out and change, that's all board decisions on what's allowed. Yes, sir.
My website's using WordPress. Do you have a listing, like a whole list of the widgets and plugins you offer other than like the one report widget?
No, there's a report widget, and then anything under this public access links. This will have any other kind of integration points for things you can put on your website.
Okay, great.
One thing you can do, and you may or may not know it, is any search that you've set up, you can create a button for that search to bring back IDX listings for it. So if I set up any saved search, so I'm just going to go to my saved searches up here. And I went to manage saved searches. I want to open this up all the way. You'll see this little view link here. So what that does is it gives me an IDX version of that link that I could then add to a button on my website, and from one click just pull back results from that search. So you could say like featured properties or properties in Key West in a certain area and just pull back those listings.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Once you get to that link, you're going to get a list of those properties.
Yes.
Now, if you click on one of those, you can't send that one as a link.
Now, if you wanted to do one, you just do you'd create basically a listing number search. That way you could say it's always these specific listings.
But it doesn't open in detail. It only opens in summary. And if you open it in detail,
I think I
and
know
then
what
try to
you're
copy and paste
trying to do. And if you go to options up here on any listing, so let's say I'm on a listing detail. If you go to the options button on the top, there's two versions of this link you can send out. And this gives you, I think, what you're asking for, which is a link that just opens that listing detail.
Right. And that's the IDX version?
Yes, there's two versions. Do they not have both
Maybe
two
they don't.
versions
I'll
turned
look
on?
at
Okay, you don't have it turned on. So we have the ability to have two different versions.
A client and a public.
Yes.
So you want the client because you don't want the listing agent, and
Yeah.
yes. We have that feature, but your MLS doesn't have it turned on. I'll make a note, and I can talk to your dearest to get that turned
Yeah.
on.
It'll basically have two options here. One will say public, and another will say client.
Yeah.
And the client has all the IDX rules, and it won't tell them the agent or the office on there.
So it's after our MLS to ask it to be turned on?
Yeah, we can do that like in 2 minutes. It's
Yeah.
just, you just haven't got it turned on. And you can copy that
Well,
widget.
what we do when we add these features to the MLS, we send out a notice to the key people within the MLS saying these features are now available, that they can be turned on. Because not everything is something all boards want to turn on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a standard list that we could see of what we could see to be turned on and what's not turned on?
Yeah, we can provide the committee with a list of everything we've ever done that's optional. We also have a list of we know, we can actually tell the committee what you have turned on and what you don't have turned on.
I think I've already provided that to
may
you,
have already
Darius,
sent it to you.
a while ago,
Yeah.
but we can resend it and give it to you.
Yeah.
Well, I would like it to be resent
Yeah.
because there's a lot of options that have been turned on in the last couple of weeks.
That's a very good point.
we need to know.
Sure. Okay.
For them on the committee.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
May I ask you, please, when I'm entering a new listing, a lot of the information that I need is either on the property record card, the tax record. So is there a way that I'm able to go right to those without saving as incomplete, going to those other sites and then bringing the information back to my listing?
I think you already have auto-pop turned on, so you should be able to auto-populate that listing based on the tax. So.
Yeah, the tax, but what if I want to see the property record card, which is the property appraisers?
Oh, okay.
Site?
If it's in another site, so you're going in and you're populating a listing, let's walk through it real quick so I can get a feel for it.
Tina, are you just saying you want to be able to do that from within Rapattoni without, like, just with hitting a button like they do on Flex?
Yes,
We're about to
exactly.
turn that on, we're about to turn on, go to clerk reports, to the taxes, you know, all of those things will be links off of the homepage, just like they're going to do on Flex. We've got it in beta staging right now, but.
Oh, I don't know which ones you're talking about.
Talk about me and what we're turning on and that. I'm on the MLS committee and I've never heard of what we can turn on and what we can't that you're referring to, the we. So is there some kind of way we can have a meeting and discuss all this, or maybe we want to turn on some more options?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And may I finish, please? When you say you're working on that and it's gonna happen, I mean, soon?
I would like to know when we're working on it, because this is the first I've heard of it.
It's just, yeah, the links are there, it's just a matter of, you know.
Are you going through and just asking them to turn things on, or are we discussing it as a committee?
The committee approved me to work directly with Rapattoni just to see what was out there that we might want.
No, but you're talking about all these turn on and turn off, so we're part of the committee and we'd like to know, because there might be things that would benefit all the members to turn on.
Absolutely. We have the ability, Tina, we'll have it.
We need a committee meeting and then we'll look at what's best for the whole entire body.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for having us out. We really appreciate the time.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, of course.